All right. So as I mentioned in my previous video, there's a trade proposition for a Portland player that I saw. It came across me in a Facebook group on Facebook. Well, I already said it. It came across a group I'm in on Facebook, and it was said that Brian Windhorst reported this or stated this, that Portland could look to build a package around Anthony Simmons or Anthony Simons, however you want to pronounce his name. Now, I'm not even going to front. I'm not too familiar with dude. I just seen a quick look at his stats. He's like a 17-point per game scorer. He's 22 years of age, so he's much younger than Zach LaVine is. And so there's that part. And he kind of fits their timeline if they're trying to go back versus go forward, which I told you guys, based on the decisions that this front office makes, that's going to dictate, which route they're going to go. Because you either have to go full in on Vooch, DeRozan, Zach LaVine, basically, or you have to be like, no, let's slow this thing down and go with like Paul, Ayo, Zoe, Zach LaVine. And that's pretty much what it's come to, because here's the thing. The Bulls really, the only leverage that they have right now, because Zach is an unrestricted free agent, the only leverage that they really have is like, okay, if he makes All-NBA, they can give him a Supermax. And if they can't give him a Supermax, I believe he can still sign a 5-year deal. And so if Zach wants his money, he's going to have to do some things to get into a position to make that money. What do I mean? You have to facilitate a sign and trade, which means you're going to have to work with Chicago. Because no other team can give you a 5-year deal or the Supermax. Only Chicago has that. That's the only leverage they have. But there's nothing that's stopping him from going out and signing with a team. The problem is there's not a lot of teams out there with cap space to take on Zach LaVine. So they would have to facilitate a sign and trade, or they just have to release a bunch of players, which they would still be on the hook for their contracts, and they don't want to do that. And so it really boils down to, how bad does Zach LaVine want to be in a location other than Chicago? And that's basically what it is, man. Like, other than that, Zach could easily go find a team with a bunch of cap space. I'm trying to think of a team that's got like a whole lot of open cap space, like OKC. He could easily go to OKC and be like, all right, cool, let's hammer out a deal. And that's pretty much what that is, But here's the thing, right? Zach's going to want to win. He's going to want his money, and he's going to want to be in a winning situation. And Dame would have a lot of reason to want Zach LaVine. His backcourt mate has always been CJ McCollum, someone who's smaller than him. And although he can score, he can't score like Zach. Zach is 6'6", legit, and he's an athletic freak as far as that's concerned. That's another guy who can go out there, basically match Dame bucket for bucket, and he's a much better athlete, so he has some things that he brings to the table that even Dame and CJ couldn't do. So he's never played with someone like that. It'll also help Dame feel like he's actually got someone that's there beside him that he can play with, and it'll make him want to stay in Portland for the grind, which fits his agenda. Because, he's always talking about not running from the grind, that whole thing. But what about the Bulls, right? My issue of why I think he might not want to leave is, so he did all this recruiting of Vooch, DeRozan, and Zoe. only to just leave them a year later? That kind of sounds foolish. Kind of sounds fucked up too. But, you know, I've seen some people argue, okay, well, he played injured all year, which is true. He definitely played injured. But my only issue with that is some players just like to play and they'll play through injury. But outside of that, Zach's trying to get the Supermax. And to do that, he needs all NBA. If he would have basically quit at the same time as Zoe, there's no way he would be eligible or even like up for it to be on an all NBA team. And so it would behoove him to, hold off and try to do that, So it would make sense for him to try to play out the year because, that's money on the line. If you play, he played with the wrist injury. He played with the knee injury. If he gets all NBA, he qualifies for that Supermax, which is like $250. And he gonna want the Supermax. Now, here's the other part. Acme and them probably are gonna want to have, stuff in the contract that protects them if he's injured where he doesn't get all of his money. Now, my only trepidation about that thought process is I'm not sure what they did with the Lonzo contract, but I think there's incentives for him actually playing, most of the games. It's not a lot. It's like a $5 million difference over, the year. So it's the difference between making like 80 and 85 over the course of the contract. Now, they could do something like that with Zach, but would that piss off Zach? Who knows? And apparently he's really good friends with DeJounte Murray. It's possible he may want to go play in San Antonio if Pop is going to stay around for another year and play with his best friend, allegedly. And DeJounte Murray showed he can hoop. He was an all-star this year. I think he put up like 27-7 or 28-8. It was something like that. He can hoop. He can play. And he's basically Lonzo Ball, essentially, just without the shooting. He can pass, he can rebound, he plays defense at a high level, he attacks the rim. Lonzo does all those things, except he's not much of an attacker of the rim, but he's a floor spacer. He will space the floor for you. Pretty much. And he's got a little bit more aggressive nature to him, but he's got to because his points come from the rim. Zoe can afford to hang back because he can shoot the ball. But that's pretty much what it is, like, in my eyes. Like, and there's other teams out there that will definitely be interested in Zach LaVine, like take New York and some other places. And here's the other part of this with Acme, right? Or maybe I shouldn't just say Acme. Here's my part with it. As I accidentally turn on my windshield wipers. What if Zach wants to go to a particular team that don't have cap space, he's gonna have to facilitate the trade. I don't mind this because Zach is going to command a pretty good penny. He's going to get paid somewhere between like 30 and 39 million. I think the max he could get without the Supermax, I think, is like 39 a year is what it averages out to. I think, they're going to try to get him around 31, 34. And I think that 39 is also like year 5, not like the first 4 years. You know what I'm saying? So I think, I put it like this, man. They're going to be paying like $120 million to keep this core together. The core of the Big Four. If they pay Zach LaVine and he stays. Right? And Jeannie Buss just came out yesterday and was talking about how she's spending so much money on a team that couldn't get to the playoffs is unacceptable. Like, for a team like that, they need to be in the playoffs if she's going to be paying out that kind of money. And I feel like for the Bulls, who they've never gone into the tax, that's basically how they're going to feel. If we're going to be paying all this money, they better be in the fucking playoffs, and not just in the playoffs. They better be making a deep run. And so I'm kind of curious how this is all going to unfold, because Zach is with Clutch, and Clutch does their thing. They get their guys as many dollars, guaranteed dollars up front as possible. And you know that this is a part of the Genjutsu. You know, this is a part of the illusion where they start putting pressure. Like, hey, Zach LaVine is going to explore his options. You know, they did the same thing with Zoe. They do it with all their clients. They let them know. They let the media know. They start, getting the media going. Hey, this team is interested in Zach LaVine. Hey, this team is linked to Zach LaVine. Hey, this team wants, will be willing to make a trade for Zach LaVine. They do all this to get the Bulls or get the current team to say, hey, you can't afford not to pay my man what he needs because all these other teams want him. And if you don't, we'll take our talents elsewhere. And that's essentially what they did with Zoe. As soon as the season was over, Zoe being linked to all these teams was popping out. But Zoe was being linked there during the season, because I think Rich Paul and them were trying to get him out during the season. It just didn't work out that way. But during the summer, that's why the first deal that broke was the Lonzo deal, because it was already set in place. They had already got that information going, and that's what led to Chicago Bulls basically losing their second-round pick. And so I think this may be some of that with Zach. Although Zach does have, he has motive to leave. Like, they even used hey, Zach wants to play with LeBron because he said that in an interview a couple years back. Like, that's already being leaked. Like, you see where this is going. So this is going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, either Zach gets his deal done or guaranteed up front, or we're going to start hearing about a blockbuster trade being built around Zach LaVine for some other team. And there's a lot of teams that could be interested. Dallas, Portland, San Antonio, the Lakers, New York, Charlotte, Memphis even. There's a lot of teams. Like, a lot of these teams that's about to get put out of the second round of the playoffs, they're missing that one go-to guy. And look at Philly. Philly had James Harden play one very good game, and then they got stopped. And I'd be thinking, like, what if we had Zach LaVine right now, and you can let James Harden just be the point guard and not have to worry about it? You can go Zach LaVine and Embiid. You see all these teams, even Miami would be like, damn, we wish we had a Zach LaVine. That's where we're at. And Zach knows this. Rich Paul knows this. There's a lot of teams out there right now that could truly use his services. So, Anthony Simons is one deal. Wouldn't surprise me if Toronto, even though I doubt Zach would want to go to Toronto, but it wouldn't surprise me if they call. I think all the other teams in the league just about would give a phone call unless they already have their score. But I mean, my God, next year Vooch makes 24. DeMar makes 28. That's 52. Zoe's making 19. That's 71. If Zach gets his, that's 100. That's like 119, 110. And if Pat's getting, like, I think somewhere between 8 and 10 million. That's 120 million for your starting five. And for them to do what? Go out in the first round in 5? I don't know about that. But if they let Zach walk, they free up 17 million to go sign some players. So we'll see what happens, but that's all I got. I hope y'all have a good one. Peace.